Hello everyone, today's video is about an intolerance to vitamin D. Just before jumping into the video, if you don't mind taking a quick moment to please like, share, subscribe, and or post a quick comment on the video, I'd really appreciate it. And also, as per usual, nothing I'm saying should be construed as medical advice. This is for informational purposes only. If you need medical advice, please talk to your healthcare provider to get that advice. So about, let's see here, 5 months ago, I posted a video called Can You Be Allergic to Vitamin D? And somebody recently posted a question on that video thread on YouTube, and I thought it would be a good idea to do a little update on reacting to vitamin D. So I'll read the question, and then this will serve as a dual purpose, answering some questions and also giving a little update about vitamin D reactivity. So the question goes, my vitamin D levels are severely low. When I take even 2,000 international units, I get anxiety attacks, palpitations, and bone pain. What can I do? Is this ever heard of? So thank you for the questions. Sorry to hear about the health challenges related to the vitamin D. I've had maybe a couple dozen patients, give or take, 20-ish maybe, patients over the years who just cannot seem to tolerate vitamin D for the life of them. I don't exactly remember what I posted in this video from 5 months ago. I post a lot of videos, so I'm not sure exactly what I said, but I don't think that I mentioned this, or this video might have been what actually triggered one of my other patients that I work with, who sent me an email saying, "Hey, by the way, I used to react. I had vitamin D intolerance. I would react to vitamin D," and she was a very intelligent individual, and she basically pieced together, or surmised that, she said, well, wait a minute, where's this vitamin D come from? And most vitamin D, to my understanding, she was the one that educated me on this, I didn't know prior to this, is that vitamin D comes from lanolin. And she's like, well, wait a minute, vitamin D comes from lanolin, I'm reacting to the vitamin D, I'm also allergic to wool. So she tried to, so she said, well, maybe I'm reacting to it because of where it's coming from. And so she got some vegan vitamin D, and she doesn't react to it, and she's tolerating it. It's just great. So that really got my brain thinking, like, oh my gosh, maybe these other 20 or so patients that cannot tolerate vitamin D for the life of them, maybe this is the same thing. So as I would, say, a couple of them I emailed, other ones I'm, still seeing routinely in practice. And so I was just saying, hey, by the way, this is going to sound weird, but are you allergic to wool? And 90% of them, give or take, I think I maybe talked to 10 of them, give or take, about this. 9 out of 10 have said, yeah, I am. Maybe not full blown allergic, but they get really irritated from the wool. They're maybe not breaking out in hives, but they're very, they react to wool. And so I think there's probably something to it. Now, unfortunately, of those 9, not sure about the exact numbers here, but maybe 3 or 4 of them who have tried a vegan vitamin D, they still react to that. So I don't know, maybe jury's out on what's going on there, but a couple of them are able to tolerate the vegan vitamin D, so that's encouraging. So just a little update on that topic. So thank you to that. I don't know, the patient who told me about this, I think she watches some of my videos. So if you're listening to this, thank you for bringing that information to my attention. And that's been just, I really don't like unsolved mysteries. So this has helped to solve a couple of mysteries anyway. So I'm very appreciative for that. Circling back to the questions at hand here. So in terms of getting anxiety attacks, palpitations, and bone pain from taking vitamin D, it's I guess circling back to what I've been seeing in these other patients who are reacting to vitamin D, it's not like they're taking the vitamin D drops and they're having classic allergy symptoms. They're not getting a scratchy throat, watery eyes. They're not breaking out in hives or anything like that. They're having an exacerbation of their pre-existing symptoms. So I mean, in my patients, I'm sure I will have other patients over the course of time who say, yeah, I take vitamin D and I flare. My assumption is that it's probably related to some reactivity to where the vitamin D is coming from. But then again, I have some other patients where maybe it's not where it's coming from because they're reacting to vegan vitamin D as well. In general, vitamin D is usually really, really well tolerated. So I have had some patients where they've reacted to vitamin D from, say, one company, but not from another company. And my presumption, so there's some companies that put a lot of different ingredients in with their vitamin D, especially if they're vitamin D drops. They put flavoring and things like that in there. Maybe some stevia, maybe some xylitol. And so I've had some patients where they, as best we could tell, they were reacting to the non-medicinal ingredients because they switched over to a coconut oil-based vitamin D, and they were fine with that. So sometimes it's a reaction to a non-medicinal ingredient, and then maybe it's a wool cross-reactivity. And then in other cases, maybe if someone was, I have had some patients, I'm talking all day, so gotta slow down a little bit here. I have had some patients where they needed to go to a much lower dose of vitamin D. So, starting with a really low dose, like maybe 500 international units, and then they, gradually build up their dose. And so even if they say they were reacting to like 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 IUs, whatever they were starting with, when they went down to a lower dose, they were able to tolerate it and then gradually build up. So if, let's say, they were reacting at 2,000 international units, once that reaction cleared up, then maybe they started at 500. Then that was going okay for a few days. Then they tried 1,000. That for a few days that was fine. 1,500 for a few days, back up to 2,000. Fine with, looking at my hands in front of me and on the camera, they're a little different. Back up to 2,000, they're doing fine. 2,500, fine. 3,000, fine. And they were just building up, and they're fine. They exceeded that point that was previously flaring them because they needed to build up a tolerance to the vitamin D. Why would we need to build up a tolerance to vitamin D if we're not, sensitive or if we're not like allergic to it or sensitive, having a hypersensitivity reaction to it? Well, a person could react to vitamin D because vitamin D is really, really good for us. It helps get our mitochondria working better. It's something that helps to improve the levels of our T regulator cells for our immune system. It's something that has other immune system enhancing effects against microbes. So a person could theoretically have a die-off reaction or a Herx reaction from taking more vitamin D than they can handle. They could have a detox reaction from taking vitamin D and upregulating the energy production in their hepatocytes and getting their liver cells working better, and they detox a little too fast. For patients, the patients I was referring to, like the 20 some odd patients who have been just straight up allergic to vitamin D at any dose, that's kind of one category of patient, more of like a hypersensitivity reaction of vitamin D kind of patient. But then for some, it's reacting to the non-medicinal ingredients. And then for others, I think it's just their physiologies are so bogged down or otherwise occupied with their mold toxins, heavy metals, infections, whatever it is, and then bringing in the vitamin D is just catalyzing too many healthy processes that their body's kind of getting overwhelmed by. So in those cases, if they go lower and gradually build up, then typically they'll be able to tolerate it. So there's a few different possible scenarios there. So I hope this information was of interest. If anybody has any questions or comments on this topic or anything else, just post in the comment section below, and I will do my best to answer as soon as I can.